Okay, our sermon for today is entitled "Lean on Me," and that scripture, kind of sums up, what the sermon's going to be about. Because in your hardest times of trials and tribulations and trouble and challenges and obstacles to overcome and the wickedness of the world and getting caught up in that all that turmoil, there's going to come a point where you've got to have somebody to lean on. And God is the one that's always there for you no matter what. When your mother and your father forsake you, the Lord will lift you up. When you're going through the eye of the storm, just wait on the Lord and be of good courage, and the Lord will strengthen your heart. I mean, there's many, many, many scriptures and stories about how God will be there for you no matter what, and how God will have your back when you need him. And no matter what you're going through, you can call on the Lord and he will be there for you. And God can fix anything. And I said in a couple sermons ago, even if you're in a life or death situation, there could be a situation where, you got into a terrible situation and the medical people are on the scene and they're saying, ain't even no point in praying for this guy. This guy is done. God can deliver you from stuff like that. Right now, the world is in a shambles. And I say this all the time. I'm fortunate and blessed enough to be able to see these things as they unfold. And I'm right in the trenches, in the midst of all this ungodliness and unholiness and wickedness all around us. And I see what people on the streets are going through. And it's really sad when, you're driving down the street and it's pouring down rain and it's cold outside, and you see people in wheelchairs with limbs missing, with no rain gear on, and they're wheeling their wheelchair to try to get to wherever they're going to get the resource that they need for that day. And people are out there, strung out on drugs and out of their mind and don't even know who they are anymore. And just at the bus stop, laid out, sleeping on the ground in the doorway of some store. It's a horrible thing out there. And a lot of people out here where we live, they don't really get to see that. And they don't really publicize it a whole lot on the news because it's an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And it's so overwhelming and out of control that, the people that aren't going through that they don't want to deal with it. But eventually the calls of distress, the cries of distress can be heard by everybody in all these broad places, and even the places that aren't so broad are going to be hearing cries of distress. People are going to be in turmoil. People are going to be confused. There's going to be chaos, all the misinformation, going around. There was a movie that was produced by Barack and Michelle Obama, and it was, what's the name of the movie, Ashley? Leave the World Behind. And it's a movie about what might happen in the future if America has an attack, from a foreign enemy. And, in the movie, they showed these people that, were fairly well off, and the wife had booked a Airbnb, out in the country in a really nice big house, and something happened, and they were at the beach, and a boat ran up on shore because the GPS guidance it wasn't working, and the boat was out of control, and they went back to the house, and there was a knock at the door in the middle of the night, and it was a black man, and the lady was like, "What's this black man doing at our door?" And the black man said, "This is actually my house. I'm the one you talked to on the phone." And anyway, the lady didn't believe. One thing led to another, but it showed the breakdown of society was going to be part of the warfare. And it was a situation where they explained that first what they do is they cripple the communications. For instance, there was a guy in there at one point, he was begging this other man for some resources because his son was sick and dying. And he was saying, "I'm just a useless man without my GPS and my internet. I'm confused and I don't know what to do." and where to go to get help. And my son is dying, and I'm begging you, please help me. There's going to be a lot of that going on because we live in a world that is powered by this artificial intelligence. We depend on those satellites to communicate with the devices that we have so we can just live everyday life. Some people keep their entire life on their phone. All their finances are attached to their phone. All their personal information is attached to that phone. And that phone's attached to the internet, and that internet's attached to that satellite. And if the satellite goes out, what do you have? People didn't have transportation. There was automated cars, the cars that drive themselves. They were backed up on the highway because the automated cars didn't have any control anymore, and they were slamming into each other, one behind the other. And they were out of control, and it was blocking off all the exits for the cities. Nobody could get out of the city. Nobody could get into the city. It was a mess, and people just didn't know what to do. And they didn't go too far into detail, but they gave you an idea of what we need to prepare for. And I talked about before, if you watch TV on the news and you can see what's going on in Ukraine, and you can see what's going on in Israel, and you can see the people fleeing and scrambling and running for their lives, and the buildings are knocked down, and the people are getting killed, and there's no fresh water, and the food lines have been cut off, and people have no resources, and they're just desolate and desperate. And you can bet that that's going to happen here if something like that happens, and we're headed in that direction. But the good thing about God is, and I want to reiterate this, God will never leave us comfortless. God always has a solution for us. God always has an answer to our problems. And sometimes you got to keep your eyes open, and you got to pay attention to what's going on. You got to pay attention to the vibe and the frequency that God is communicating with you through. You've got to pay attention to the message that God is trying to give you. When he says jump, you jump. When he says duck, you duck. Right way, left way, whatever God's telling you, that's the way you move, because God has our back, and our ultimate survival is in God's hands. And that's why we have to wait on the Lord and be of good courage. And good courage means we have to do everything that we can possibly do to help the situation. We have to maintain that frequency with God. We have to listen for that message. In the corporate world, they say, I didn't get the memo. Well, we have to make sure we get the memo. We have to make sure that that email is clear. We have to make sure that we receive the text message, whatever it is you want to call it, that message from the Lord. Hallelujah. That's what we need to make sure is we're in the frequency, in the tune, on the right wavelength to receive that message from God, those messages from God. We have to all be on the same page. We have to move in synchronicity. When one moves, the other moves. When I move, you move, just like that. When I jump, you jump, just like we have to all move together like a well-oiled machine. And if we can get it together and we can get our spiritual armor intact, we fear not, because God is on our side. No matter what's going on, God can deliver us. No matter how unsafe it is, God can keep us safe. God will get us the resources we need. God will put us in the safety of his pavilion. God will make sure that nothing happens to us and the people that we love. But we have to make sure that we're paying attention. And that works in everyday life. That works if you're having a problem on your job, if you're having a problem in your social life, if you're having a problem with your neighbors, if you have a problem with your car, if you have a problem with not enough food, if you have a problem with drugs, if you have a problem with overeating, if you have a problem with any kind of problem that you're trying to deal with, if you give that problem to God and honestly, earnestly pray to God, and that's the problem right there. You can tell somebody that if you pray to God, God will deliver you. But if that person's not really praying, then they can't expect to be delivered because they're not really praying. And that's part of the problem, is people have to learn how to really pray to God. You have to find a nice, quiet place. It doesn't have to be quiet, but it works best when it's a nice, quiet, solitude place. And then you can get on your knees and fold your hands and close your eyes and really talk to God. really ask God to deliver you from what you're going through. You have to talk to God just like you would talk to your brother or your mother or your father or your sister or anybody you're communicating with. You have to be clear with God about what you're asking for. And certainly the most important thing is you have to be clear about who you're praying to. Because just like it says in the Bible, God himself said that you'll have no other God before me. That means that God was letting you know that there's other gods here that function in the same realm and same dimension that God functions in. And so you have to be specific that you're praying to the Lord God of Israel. You're praying to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You're praying to the Most High God. And one thing in that realm, in that other dimension, those other gods know who's in charge. They know who the boss is, but they will lead you to believe that they don't know if you don't know. And if you say a prayer and you pray an open prayer to any God that wants to listen, they all can hear you and any of them can answer you, but it's not always an answer from God. And more times than not, it'll be a quick solution from the devil. And I said before, and I want to say it again, you can always tell when it's a gift from the devil because it always involves something dishonest. It always involves some kind of deceit. And it always involves somebody being harmed in the process. And if those three things are present, that didn't come from God. Sometimes God will give you a solution that isn't the easy route. It isn't the fast solution, but it's a solid solution. And sometimes you got to take a little more effort and try a little bit harder to do these things that God is asking you to do. But I promise you that you will find out that if you follow the Lord and do these things, he will give you what you're looking for. He will deliver you from what you're going through. He will help you with this solution to this problem that is beating you up, is dragging you down, is consuming you. He will deliver you from those things if you ask him to. You have to ask God to deliver you. And some of us have those autonomous blessings, that come from the people that came before us. I am fortunate enough to be one of those people that have those blessings that come from past generations. I have two of those past generations on the phone with us right now that have found favor with God, that have done good in the sight of the Lord and racked up those blessings in the storehouse for future generations. And I am fortunate to have had that happen in my family, but everybody's not that fortunate. And so whether you're that fortunate or not, if you are that fortunate, you need to continue to rack up those blessings for the future generations, because we read in the ceremony that God's blessing is generational. God's covenant is an everlasting covenant. It goes for 1,000 generations. Generation after generation after generation, the people that are born into that covenant will receive those blessings. Now, the people that don't have those people before they came before them to rack up these blessings and build up this storehouse full of blessings, all you have to do is give it to God. And you can start building those blessings. You can start building a storehouse of wealth of blessings. It doesn't matter whether the people that came before you were able to do that or chose to do that. You can pick any time. Right now can be the next minute in the beginning of your life. Anything that happened before now, if you're alive and you can talk about it and you can think about it and you can feel it and you can cry about it or you can shout about it or you can yell about it, if you can pray to God and ask him to deliver you, it's never too late. No matter what you're going through or even what you've done. Sometimes people need to pray to God for things that they did. They're doing evil things. It's not just people having evil things being done to them. It's people that are doing evil things to other people. And we never, ever want to wish something bad for those people, even though it's hard not to wish something bad for somebody that's doing horrible things to other people. We want to pray that those people find salvation, that those people ask God for forgiveness, that God delivers those people from their wicked ways. That's what we're praying for. That's what we're hoping for. That's the solution to the problem. We don't want to wish harm on somebody else. We know that God doesn't listen to those prayers. Just because you pray for something bad to happen to somebody else and it happens doesn't mean God did it because you asked for it. That means it was coming and it finally happened. And when bad things happen to people, and you can talk to anybody that's been through tragic situations that have happened in their life. And I'm not just talking about tragedy that happened to other people in their family and they grieved about it. I'm talking about people that have experienced tragedy and near-death experiences due to their poor choices and the places that they chose to go. And when bad things, something terrible is getting ready to happen to you, God gives you warnings. Little things start happening. And there's a voice in your mind that starts telling you, maybe I should stop doing this. Maybe I should make a different choice. Maybe I can do better. But then there's another voice, and that's the voice of the devil. The devil says, no, this is the way to go, and this is quick and easy, and you're going to get everything you want out of this. Just do it this way. And you keep on doing those things and keep on moving in that direction. And during the course of that road, you have plenty of opportunities and plenty of exits you could have taken. It's like being on the highway, and you're on the highway to hell. They make songs about that, on the highway to hell. But on the highway to hell, on that road, there's lots of exits to salvation. There's lots of exits to forgiveness. There's lots of exits to relief. There's lots of exits to deliver you from the situation that you're in and take you off that road to destruction. There's plenty of chances to get off that road. And it's up to you. That's where the free will comes in. Everybody talks about the free will that God gave us on this earth. We've got the decision-making process. We've got the ability to make our own choices. And now they're giving these choices to children. But we always have the opportunity to make our own choices and choose our own path, which leads to our own choice and destiny. And at any time, you can change your mind. Sometimes people are so engulfed and caught up in the way they do things, and they see it's moving in the wrong direction, but they've done it so long, they don't want to change. And I don't know whether it's because they're ashamed to tell anybody they were wrong and now they're going to move the right way, or maybe they're just hard-headed and they just figure, okay, it's tough now, but it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And they say the definition of insanity is if you keep doing things the same way, expecting different results. If you want something to turn out different, you have to start doing it different. You have to have a different process, a different method of operation if you want a different result or a different outcome. And that's what life is about. It's about challenges. It's about overcoming these challenges. It's about learning to overcome these challenges. It's about dealing with situations and learning how to get around these obstacles and get through these problems. It's about staying the course, holding on fast and staying the course. It's like that ship and we talked about that before too. That ship that's in the eye of the storm and the righteous are rowing the oars and you have to stay the course. You have to remain true. You have to make sure that you're doing everything you can do and you're waiting on the Lord to deliver you. When you're in the eye of that storm, like I said, no matter if you're on your deathbed and you can't even speak, but you can think in your mind, God, please deliver me. I promise you, he will deliver you if you pray earnestly and ask God to deliver you. He will. And it's just like that song. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. It's just like that. God will be there when nobody else is there for you. God will be there in the complete darkness. We read in the ceremony how the darkness is just like light to God. There's no difference to him. He functions just as well at night as he does in the daytime. And us as humans, the darkness is kind of scary for us. Our vision changes, the shadows change, the amount of light that's reflecting off these objects kind of is distorted a little bit, and things change at night, and we hear things go bump and we can't really see them because our vision didn't really catch it. And we see way better in the daytime, and we feel more comfortable as a creature in the daytime because we can see better, and when we see better, we feel safer because we can see what's going on around us. Well, in the nighttime, it's the same to God. He sees everything in the dark just like he sees in the light. And we listened to the ceremony where it said that if I make my way to heaven, God is there. And if I make my bed in hell, God is there too. God is with us wherever we go. God is there for us anytime. It's like he's on standby. He's on speed dial. Whenever you need him, you can call him. But if you call on him, you should be prepared to do what he wants you to do to get what you're looking for. And that's like, that's really, if you think about that concept, it's a little bit selfish, but that's really, if you really dig deep into it, that's really what God has planned for us. And that's why, the main reason why we love God so much, because we know we can count on God. We know he will deliver us from anything. Did I lose anybody? Is the speaker still working? Are people on the phone? Can you guys hear me? The speaker died. Can you guys hear me now? Oh, okay. How long ago did it cut off?
It kind of cut off about 30 seconds ago. We could hear you, all of a sudden it kind of cut off, and then it came right back, but you were like we were far away.
Okay, how's it sound now?
It's good.
Okay. And so I'm glad everybody heard that, and I ain't got to say it all over again. But God will deliver you from no matter what. And that's what we have to do, is we have to learn to count on the Lord and depend on the Lord and wait on the Lord. And like I said before, some people don't believe in God. And the devil has provided so many distractions for the young people out there and so many alternatives to God. And like we were talking about before, it's not a popular thing to worship the Lord. It's not a popular thing to follow God. And everybody nowadays is into popularity. What's going to get you the most views? What's going to get you the most likes? What to give the people what they want. And they have rules now in society where you can be what you want to be. And they used to make songs about that. On cloud nine, you can be what you want to be. On cloud nine, you ain't got no responsibility. On cloud nine, every man in the world is free. You're a million miles from reality. And that's the key to that song. If that's your attitude, you're a million miles from reality. Because that's not how it works in the real world, and that's not how it works in the spiritual world. True that you can do what you want to do, and you can be what you want to be. But it doesn't always happen that you want to be what God has intended for you. You may not want to be what the Lord has planned for you. You may not want to be someone who walks among the upright and your peer group is with the righteous. You may not want to do that because it's not popular to do that anymore. And I used an example of these YouTube channels I have. I have one channel that is the sermons, and I'm recording this right now, and I record these sermons and I put them up on a playlist so people can listen to the sermons, and it can give them an uplifting feeling. It can give them an alternative to suffering that they're going through. It'll teach them a little bit about how to pray to God and how all that works. And I do that, not for the likes and not really for the views. But I want as many people as possible to see it because I know what people are going through. And then I have another channel that's just my fish tanks. And there's no music and there's no talking and there's no preaching on there. It's just a bunch of fish swimming around eating food and I've got one of these fish videos that's got over 1,000 views. I've only had it up for 30 days and it's got over 1,000 views. And I've got them sermons up there and some of them have been up there for 3 or 4 months. And the one with the most views has 48 views. So what does that tell you about what people are interested in? Nobody wants to hear about God. Nobody wants to follow the Lord. And back in the old days, in the biblical days, this was happening then. This is nothing new. The faces change, but the game remains the same. This ain't nothing new. The devil tried to pull this thousands of years ago with these Baal gods, telling people, you don't have to listen to God. You ain't got to follow Yahweh's rules. There's too many rules. There's too many regulations. There's too many guidelines. Just be free. Do what you want to do. I'll give you the desires of your heart. Look out at the land. Take what's yours. Only the strong survive. Make it happen. And people nowadays, I'm praying to my ancestors to guide me. Well, that's a good thing. And it's not good to pray to your ancestors, but what you're praying for is guidance from your ancestors. But you're not praising them. You're not bowing down to them, but you're praying for guidance from them. And you want to be sure that you're praying. Now, this goes back to being specific about what you're praying for and who you're praying to. You're praying to God to help your ancestors that prayed to him, the ones that found favor with him, because all of us have ancestors that went the way of the wicked. We have ancestors. As holy as some of the ancestors we have are, we also have ancestors that went the way of the wicked. And you want to make sure that when you pray for that guidance, you pray for guidance from not from those ancestors, but from the ancestors that found favor with God, the ones that did right and good in the sight of the Lord. Those are the ancestors you want to guide you because they're going to guide you down the path of righteousness. They're going to guide you down the path of salvation. And sometimes people say, what is righteousness? What is salvation? There's a lot to that. And if you don't understand what righteousness and salvation is, maybe you should do a little more of your homework and study about this a little bit because we're talking about everlasting life. We're talking about walking in the spirit and not the flesh. We're talking about, walking by faith and not by sight. We're talking about being that spirit that's inside of you and not that person that the outside is made of. In the brief and momentary things on this planet, we live for a millisecond and then it's over. And if you don't live right by the Lord spiritually, then that's where that salvation comes in. And salvation is almost like if you picture a wrecking yard where old cars go when people are done with them. This car broke down or this car was in an accident and it's not functional anymore. That's this host. That's this body that we're in. That's that car body. Sometimes the body gets old and breaks down. Sometimes it gets injured and damaged beyond repair. And so that's when salvation comes in. Let's see how much we can salvage. Well, that's where your soul is. If you damaged your soul along the course of your life and your soul is damaged beyond all repair, then you can't be salvaged. You're going to go to hell. And that's unfortunate, but you're going to go to hell. But if you can salvage a little piece of that soul, if you can find salvation while you're here on earth, if you can start walking the way of the upright and start following that path to righteousness, you can salvage that soul. And that soul can have another body and be reborn and be rebuilt into another host. And that's why they talk about, they have people that will, hypnotize you and take you through history, your what they call that past life progression. And they can kind of trigger your memory on your past lives and the lives that you've been through. Everybody's heard about reincarnation and everybody's heard about living in a past life. And it come to find out that there's really some truth to that. Come to find out there's really some some knowledge and some wisdom that points in that direction, that people live there's more to life than just this momentary life that we're living. And there's a thing called reincarnation where you're actually going to live another life. And I believe personally that the better you do here, the better you're going to be off when you live the next life. And I know that I'm pretty sure, and nobody knows until they cross over, and nobody knows until they cross that bridge and see what it's really going to be like. But I really believe that the challenges that you have in this world, in this life, the ones that you don't overcome, and in the situations that you don't learn to master, you're going to have those same problems in the next life. God is going to start you out where you left off. It's like a video game. You play that video game and say, I'm just using 20 for a number. Say there's 20 levels to this video game. And when you get to the 20th level, that's the level of harmonic balance. That's the level of supremacy. That's the level when you actually get to reach the Lord and sit at the right hand of God. But on the way, you've got these different levels that you have to achieve. And when the time runs out on level 3, you start out level 4 at the end of level 3. And you go and go and go until then maybe this time didn't run out till you got to level 10. But when you get to level 11, it starts out where level 10 left off. And you move up and you move up, and finally you get to the top level. And that kind of concept is pretty much how it works in this world and how it works with your spirit. We're here to do God's work, and God is going to shoot you those challenges. God is going to shoot you those obstacles to overcome. And when you get good at overcoming those obstacles, then God is going to send people in front of you to help. Because God wants you not to just do this for yourself. God wants you to help other people on the road to salvation. That whole thing about the golden rule, about the 10 commandments, and there's more than 10 commandments, but there's really only 2 that you keep, and it rolls everything else into those 2. Love the Lord with all your heart and treat your neighbor like you would treat yourself. And once you begin to treat your neighbor like you treat yourself, you want that salvation for yourself. You want that for your neighbor too. And then part of that goes back to what I said about if somebody believes in God, you can't make them. Somebody doesn't believe in God, you can't make them just start believing in God. You can try to show them different reasons why maybe they should look into this, and maybe they should do their homework and evaluate this for themselves. But you can't make them believe just because you do. Just because you know it's the truth doesn't mean that everybody else is going to know it's the truth. And sometimes people say everybody's got their own truth. Well, everybody's got their own opinion. Everybody's got their own thoughts. But there's only one truth. One truth. And that's the game that the devil plays, is he distorts the truth from the young people. And I want to make sure I mention this in every single sermon that I preach from now on. The game, the concept, the plan, the strategy of the devil is to control the children. And if he controls the children, he controls the future. If he controls the future, he controls the planet. And right now, it's the end of days, and he is running out of time, and he has to capture as many of these young souls as he can. And he's doing it through social media. He's doing it through gaming. He's doing it through the school system. He's doing it through the laws of mankind, not the laws of Moses, the laws of the heathens. He's doing it. They're changing the laws to give children independence away from their parents. It used to be a time where it took a village to raise a child, and even if you didn't have the whole village, a child usually had 2 parents that were going to, raise them the right way and teach them by example. And that's that age-old saying is, kids aren't going to do what you say, they're going to do what you do. And that's the whole concept of having 2 parents, is you can teach them children the right way. And even if you only have 1 parent, you can still teach the children the right way. But now they're starting to separate the children from the parents, and their traditional beliefs are turning into modern day beliefs and alternative beliefs about who they are, about what they represent, about their spirituality, about their sexuality, about everything about them. The devil is altering that, and he's making it difficult for the parents to grasp a hold of the children and lead them down the right path. And there are places now where if your child wants to do something that's untraditional, and we talked about that, we talked about if your child decides that they want to go through a gender, transition, they can do that. And as parents, if you disagree with that and you don't support them on that, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And we all know what that saying's about. And now they're allowing children to gain independence from their parents because their parents don't support them in these alternative beliefs. And there are places where it's against the law to not support your child in these alternative beliefs. There's a man in Canada right now that's in jail because his daughter wanted to transition into a young man, and he didn't support that belief, and they called that child abuse and put him in jail. Well, what's this world coming to? Where are we going with this? We know that we have rules that we follow. We have the laws of Moses. We have the book right here. And what's better, we have people in our family that set that example, that went down that road, that followed that road to salvation, and we know they got blessed. We can see they got blessed. They're still being blessed. Their blessings have trickled down onto us, and we're being blessed from the blessings that they received. It's obvious to us which way is up. It's obvious to us which way to go. And I don't want to keep you too long. And I'll be out of your way in a minute. I just want to make sure that we're clear which way we're supposed to go. Because we have to, like I said, be on the same page. We have to be in sync. One part of the machine has to function in sync with another part of the machine, which functions with another part of the machine, which allows the rest of the parts to function in order, in synchronicity, one after the other. Boom, 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 boom. Same direction, same movement, same motion, same speed. We're all moving as one. And once we have that spiritual armor intact, and we're all praising the same God, and it said in here in the scripture and in the ceremony, God's goal is for all the earth to praise him. We have to all be on the same page. And people they've been talking against one world order for a long time. They've been saying bad things about that for a long time. But if you think about that whole concept, one world moving in the same direction, and they know it's inevitable, that's going to happen. So what they're trying to do now is make sure that the whole world's moving the wrong way. And that'll be a one world order. Everybody be moving away from God. Our job, and not everybody's job, this is the job as part of this covenant that we honor and praise, part of this covenant that we hold holy, this covenant we have with our God. Part of this covenant requires us to move in the right direction. It requires us to follow these same rules. And that's why we're all supposed to move in the same direction. That's why we're all part of this covenant, because that teaches us to move together. That teaches us to work together. That gives us the same goals and the same values and the same ideals. We're all on the same page if we're all part of the same covenant. That's that synchronicity that we need so badly. The whole world needs that. And so I just want to make sure that we understand what our purpose is and what we're supposed to be doing. And it's like I said, it's not popular. You're not going to get a bunch of likes. You're probably not going to get a bunch of views. Everybody in your family is going to like it because we have a righteous family. We have a lot of holy and righteous people in our family that are doing the right thing by God. So when they see you, if you put it on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or something like that, and your family members see you, they're going to give you some likes and they're going to give you some views and they're going to share it and all that kind of stuff. But the main population of the world, when they see it, they're not going to be interested in it because that's not the way they want to go. There's too many alternatives to God now. There's too many other reasons. They come up with reasons why you shouldn't follow God. I just gave you all these reasons why you should, but there's a whole bunch of reasons that they will give you on social media. This is the devil giving you reasons not to follow God. And so it goes back to that free will. The choice is yours. And I hate to say it like this, but do you want to be blessed or not? Do you want to go to heaven? You want to go to hell? And I want to mention one more thing before I go. There are people that say that they're leading you to salvation. There are people that say that they're leading you to God. There are people that say if you follow them, you'll be blessed. There's people that say, and this is the important part, if you send me your money, God will bless you. Send me your money. That not pay your tithes, not help the church, not look at all the good things we're doing, be a part of this. Not that. Send me your money and I will make sure that God blesses you. Now, nobody can be sure that God's going to bless you. They can be sure that if you do these things, you're going to get the blessings that everybody else gets when they do these things. But if somebody tells you, send me your money and I will make sure God blesses you, there's something wrong with that. You know what I mean? If they don't have a purpose, churches, when they do good things, when they provide resources for the downtrodden and the unfortunate, they have programs and they have things that they're actually doing, and you can see their works. You can see the works of God, how God works through these churches to do good things for people that are less fortunate. You can see what's happening. But if it's somebody else that's going to buy an airplane, or he's going to buy a big fat house or some fancy cars or all that kind of, that's not giving your money to God. That's giving your money to somebody who is profiting from God. He's pimping God. He or she is pimping God. And you have to watch out for those false prophets. But let me tell you something that'll give you a little bit of relief. Even if you get sucked into something like that and you give somebody like that your money and you have good intentions and you really believe that you were doing what God wanted you to do, you're going to get blessed from that. And that's the part they didn't tell you. You're actually going to get blessed if your heart is in the right place. God's going to forgive you for that. He's going to understand that you got tricked, that you were deceived, that somebody fooled you. And there's a lot of that going on. He understands that. Matter of fact, that's why God sent Jesus in the first place, was because there were so many people that had grown up with idolatry, grown up as heathens, grown up to be told that God wasn't the way to go, grown up to be told that there's no salvation, there's no such thing as God. And God understood that generation after generation after generation, if you aren't exposed to God, you don't know who God is. If you've never picked up a Bible, you don't know what it says. You may have heard it before, but you ain't never read it. You ain't never been into it. You ain't got nobody in your family that can tell you about it. You ain't got nobody around you that's showing you the way to go. It's not your fault. That's why God sent Jesus to lead all those unfortunate, misled, people, the stray sheep, the lost sheep. Jesus was sent to bring all those back to God. And, the thing is, you can't be part, those people aren't part of the covenant that we're part of, but they're still a part of a covenant that's associated with God. And Jesus, being the prophet or the Son of God or whoever he is, whoever he represents God. He's a representative of God. So if you follow Jesus, you're on the right path. But if you don't follow one or the other, it comes down to either you're following the light or you're following the dark. Either you're following the good or you're following the evil. It's one or the other. And sometimes, the God, the word God, the concept of God, sometimes it's from different cultures and it's spelled different and it's pronounced different. But you can look at the works of what people are doing and tell whether it's good or bad, whether it's righteous or it's evil. And that's where you make your decision at. No matter what it is, if it's telling you to do bad things, then it's a bad way to go. And if it's telling you to do good things, it's a good way to go. And that's how you should base it in the beginning. Not everybody wants to get as deep as I like to get and as close as I like to get to God, but it's my firm belief that you should get as close to God as you can, so he holds you close to him and he guides you, and you see everything that God is trying to show you, but, just make sure that you're following the path of good and not the path of evil. If it's something that is in your mind to do and it's wrong, don't do it. It's up to you whether you do it or not. If it's wrong, don't do it. So I'm going to end this here, and there's a lot more I could say, but I don't want this to be too long, and I want to save some for the next time. But I want to summarize, what the message is here today. You can lean on God when you're not strong. You can lean on him in your time of need. You can lean on him anytime, and God is there for you anytime, all the time, no matter what. No matter how bad it gets, God is there for you. And save the children. Watch who they're hanging out with. Watch who they're talking to. Watch who they're listening to. Watch the games that they play. Watch the social media kind of stuff that they're interested in. Watch which way they're going and listen to them and talk to them. And when you talk to them, don't talk at them, talk to them. And when it's their turn to talk, listen to what they're saying and evaluate what they're saying, and don't just discard what they're saying, and don't just shoot down what they're saying, because if they're talking to you from their heart, they're confiding in you about what they believe in and how they feel. And that's important that you understand how they feel, so that they know that you can hold their hand and guide them in the right direction, and they're going to trust you enough to walk with you. The relationship you have with your children is going to make the difference in which way they go. Are you going to heaven, or are you going to hell? Choice is up to you. Ask Church of God and Saints of Christ to please pray for me.